Welcome to Freelancers. Here we discuss the dark side of freelancing about which nobody usually talks out loud. In this show, we speak with experienced freelancers, and I'm sure listening to their stories helps you prepare for freelancers' challenges. My name is Yuri. I'm a community builder at Code Control and 9am.works, and my guest is Lizzie Davey, a freelance content writer, strategist, and thought leader in the SaaS space with over a decade of experience, who's also creating a ton of resources to help freelancers at every stage of their journey and runs a weekly newsletter with a successful Freelance Money Stories column. So, welcome, Lizzie.
Hi, thanks for having me.
The easiest question for you: what is the most challenging part of being a freelancer?
I think now it's changed over the years, but now for me, at over a decade in, um, my biggest challenge is juggling multiple projects at once. And I think this always has been an issue, but kind of there's been other challenges that have been more important at the time, like getting clients or kind of figuring out my rates. Whereas now I've got multiple clients where I'm doing multiple different things for these clients. And it's like, where does this all slot into my schedule? And how am I going to get it all done?
How are you staying productive and effective while working with different clients?
So I have quite a strict system in place now. I have a really good project management thing that I actually had built for me personally. So it's kind of my own way of working. And I try and set up my day so that I am making the most of my productive hours, which is the morning. So I will spend the morning doing kind of deep work, deep writing work, and then I will only take calls at certain times of the day and on certain days of the week. And then the afternoon is more for like kind of admin tasks, emails, etc. And then when it comes to kind of managing the clients, I've been really strict about putting boundaries in place with them. So they can't just email me and be like, we need edits this afternoon. Like, no, not happening. So I think, yeah, boundaries, a really good project management system, and then also kind of maximizing my productive hours each day.
How do you communicate your boundaries with clients?
I do it right up front. So I have a document that I send to all new inquiries that basically just lists out my prices, how I work, the processes that I use, and then at the bottom of that I have like a little like office hours section, which lists out kind of when, like how long it takes me to respond to emails, how long they need to wait to book a call with me, when I work on pieces, like what turnaround time is, the hours that I'm sat at my desk, all of those things. So I find sending them up front really sets the precedent for that relationship
Hmm.
early.
Do you negotiate them afterwards?
I've never had to actually. Most clients have been like, yeah, cool, this fine, like we're happy with this. I don't think there's anything that's like wildly difficult on there. And I'm always like open to be flexible if clients that I've been working with for a while are like, look, we're in a bind, we need a piece by the end of this week. Like I will always try and squeeze it in. Like I'm not just like no on principle. Like I will be flexible and I will try and do my best to kind of fit it in if I can.
So you were talking about the system working in the best hours and best days, but for me personally, sometimes it works that way. I have a plan and then I have mood. you know, sometimes I can procrastinate for 3 days and then do the task in like 10 minutes and it will be good. And sometimes I can like, oh my God, I can sit for longer time. So how do you incorporate your mood and general feeling and like the health and stuff into your system?
Yeah, so I used to just be like, I don't have time to
Yeah, exactly.
be in a mood about this. Like, this needs to get done. And I think it's finding the balance between like, this is my job and I get paid for it, so I have to do it. And also, um, okay, but is it better if I leave it for now and I can do it in 5 minutes or half an hour, or if I try and push through and it's going to take me 3 hours? Like, what's the better use of my time? And most of the time, it's like, okay, get up from your desk, go for a walk, or try something else and come back tomorrow. And this is the reason why I leave a buffer time in between deadlines. So I'm never working on a piece the day it has to be submitted. That gives me the cold sweats just thinking about it. Um, So I will always put buffer time in. So usually that's like 2 to 3 days before the actual deadline. So there is room, like if I'm not feeling it, or if I get sick, or if something else comes
Mm.
up.
So basically, you have always some time to feel it. I just
Yeah.
wanted to ask you about how do you feel about deadlines, but you already answered. So, what is the most time-consuming thing you must deal with as a freelancer, except for work itself?
I think it's just like all of the communication, like the emails add up, the back and forths add up, the all the little bits like checking in with clients or like chasing invoices or um, chasing like a client who said they were going to send a brief last week and hasn't. So now I haven't been able to start my part of the task. So I guess, yeah, chasing clients is probably the most time consuming thing.
Do you have some tools or processes to deal with this?
Yeah, so for invoicing, I use an invoicing tool that has a automated reminder message that goes out. I think it's like 3 days before an invoice is due, and then
Mhm.
the day after it's due if they haven't paid it. So that takes the pressure off of me. In terms of chasing clients for like briefs and stuff, I do not have a system, and I probably should. But because it's so erratic and so sporadic, like it's difficult to like actually track it.
Do you have a specific time boundaries for doing this? I mean, like, for example, in a day, like, okay, from 9 till 10, I'm communicating with clients.
Yeah, so I usually get to my desk at about 8 a.m. and I will use that first hour to reply to any emails, post on social media, like do my LinkedIn post for the day. And then deep work is from like 9 till 12. And then in the afternoon, that's when I do the chasing. So I have like two sections in my calendar where, like, on the left-hand side, there will be the actual work that I need to do, like the work I'm getting paid for. And then on the right-hand side will be the small bits that kind of I'm not getting directly paid for, but that I need to do to get paid eventually.
And talking about LinkedIn posting, so what is your system? What is your approach? How do you do those posts? Where do you get the motivation for doing them?
Good question. I actually, the LinkedIn posts and posting on social media is probably my favorite part of my day. Um, and I get inspiration from everywhere. So I get a lot of replies to the newsletter with questions. I get a lot of people kind of
Mm.
reaching out with questions. So those will go into my inspiration bank. And anytime I come across another post from another freelancer, or I see anything that I'm like, oh, this would be a good topic, or I have thoughts about this that are maybe contradictory or maybe a bit controversial, they will go into the inspiration bank. And then on a Friday, I spend about an hour and a half just kind of fleshing out those ideas so that I've got enough posts for the next week.
How many ideas usually do you have in your inspiration bank?
So many. And also, yeah, they just keep like loads and loads. And I keep adding to them and I never get through the list. And part of my goal for 2025 is to like finish the ideas I have before starting new ones.
Is it even possible?
I don't know. At this rate, I don't think so, but I'm going to try.
What is the most nerve-wracking thing you must deal with as a freelancer?
I think it is and always will be the meeting new clients for the first time and sending that initial proposal. I don't think that ever gets any easier, and I still spend way longer than I should procrastinating over whether the price is right on the proposal I'm sending or whether I've kind of covered all bases. And I still, even now on discovery calls with clients, I still feel like I'm pretending to be a successful freelancer, and that I'm often like, who's let me get this far? Like, who has allowed this? Because sometimes it just feels like I'm pretending to be a freelancer. Obviously, I'm not. I've got loads of experience, but I think when you're up against or when you're on a call with like a big corporate company, it's intimidating, and I think it always will be.
Why?
Oh, it's just scary. I don't know. I think it's probably some like deep rooted issue in me that about not being good enough. So I think that just comes out in those moments.
Yeah, and I feel like you're definitely not alone. Every time that I have a conversation with a new client, there is always like this shaking, like, what's happening? Like, how can I talk to you? But usually, if everything's go right, somewhere in the middle of conversation, I'm like, okay, now we're talking. Like,
Yeah.
you know me, I know you. Now we can be honest. So, do you have a similar feeling?
Exactly, yeah. And once I'm on the call and like you realize that you're just talking to another human being,
Yeah,
like it's
exactly.
fine and you're just having a conversation. And then I always have such a sense of relief afterwards. And I'm like, ah, what was I worried about? What was I even worried about? But then it will inevitably happen again the next time.
And once again, what is your process of getting a client? So you have a discovery call, then you send an offer, and then if everything works good, you start working, or like how it works.
Yeah, so usually the inquiry will come through and I will send them the document I have about my processes, prices and stuff. And if they're happy with all of that, then I always try and push for a call. I know lots of freelancers don't like to do calls, but I really like meeting my clients like face to face, if we can
Yeah.
call it that, because I think it helps kind of solidify that relationship and you're not just like some faceless freelancer on the internet. And then if that goes okay, then I send across the proposal and contract. Once that's signed, I get them to send me kind of all the documents I need to get started and a brief. And then usually we book in for like 2 weeks to a month later to start, or depending on my schedule.
And if they do not agree with your initial offer rates, what do you do?
We can negotiate. So I'll be like, okay, what is your budget? Or maybe we can reduce the amount of posts we're doing each month. Maybe we can reduce something to fit in with your budget. Like I'll always try and be flexible, especially if it's a client that I think is a good match and that I want to work with. Like I'm never just like, okay, no, that's fine, we're not a good fit. Unless like their budget is like wildly out of my range, in which case I'm like, there's no point negotiating here. But otherwise, I'll be flexible.
As a freelancer, do you ever feel professional loneliness?
Yes, and I for the first 4 years, this is something that I really struggled with, like really, really struggled with, because turns out I like being around other people, and I like I kind of feed off the energy of other people. And so I think about 4 years in, I joined a co-working space so I could be around other freelancers. And I think that was one of the best decisions I ever made for my career. I think being around other freelancers, having like other people in real life, not just on LinkedIn, to talk to you about like issues that you're facing, like chasing another invoice, and that I think it's yeah, it's been a real change for me having that.
Yeah, I sometimes feel that all the people I know that live online, and recently I met many people offline. It was so hard to match LinkedIn picture or
Yeah.
Zoom picture with like reality. And I had this awkward moment with this person. Somebody's coming, hey Yuri, hello. I'm like, hey, hello. What is your name?
Yeah.
Like,
It is hard. It's like, because I mean, most people have like an online persona and then offline, and most of the time, like it matches up, but sometimes it doesn't. And you're just like, oh, this is awkward. This is weird because I've built up a picture of you in my head and it's not true.
yeah, yeah. So, if your friend wanted to become a freelancer, what are top three things you'd advise them to consider before doing it?
I would say do not quit your day job just yet. Um, I did that, and I think at that time in my life it was fine, and I could bear it. But I think it's not sensible advice for most people. So my advice would be try and get some clients around your day job. Um, Create a space online where people can find you. So whether that's like a LinkedIn profile or like a one-page website, doesn't have to be complicated, but have a little space where you can send people to show them what you do. Um, and then like start networking as early as possible. I think this is the mistake I made, is that I kind of worked in isolation for a long time. But I think the biggest piece of advice I could give is start networking now, and not like sleazy networking events and stuff, but like just getting involved on LinkedIn, get like joining Slack channels with other freelancers and going to any freelance events in your local area, that kind of thing.
What is the easiest step to start networking?
I mean, LinkedIn is obviously very easy because you don't have to put that much effort in. You can just start commenting on people's posts. You don't even have to post yourself. But I would suggest like doing something that's a little less comfortable. So, which is obviously difficult because we like to do things that we're comfortable with, but like going out to local events, I think building like a local network can be really useful if you're in an area where there are a fair few freelancers. I know not everyone is, but yeah, I think the LinkedIn Slack channel is probably the easiest, lowest hanging fruit for networking, and then on top of that, go where freelancers are hanging out in your local area.
I wish to have the sky as the limit, but time is the limit. So the final question. If you were starting freelancing today, what is one thing you would have done differently?
Started building my network earlier. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I was just kind of faffing around on Upwork for years and not speaking to any other freelancers. So if I could go back, I would absolutely start building my network from the very, very beginning.
Got it. Got it. Lizzie, thank you so much for sharing your experience and for having such an open conversation.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for listening. If you like the show, hit the like button or 5 stars and share it with your friend. That's it. We're done. See you in the next episode.